So this is the starting process of kind of, you know, how we achieve our colors and everything. This is our laboratory that we work with at our dye house, and they'll take different beakers. There's like a exact like science to all of it, and they can take all these different colors and start mixing things together onto these little swatches, and then it goes into these little baths that heat it up to a certain temperature and shake it around, and ultimately help test out which formula. It's almost like you have to play mad scientist with the fabric, because every fabric's going to react to a dye differently. And there's so many different dyes you can do. I mean, there's reactive, there's pigment. But yeah, so this is just kind of our little laboratory. I'm going to come show you the dye house where all the production gets done. And we'll start from the very beginning of the wash process so you can kind of get a better understanding of it. So these giant bins of clothes come over here, and they'll go inside our industrial washing machines. And the formulas that we use for, you know, the laboratory get crossed into here pretty much, and these big machines will take our clothes and wash it around. And once the washing's done here, it could go over here where they will tie up some garments, and that's how you get a lot of, you know, different tie-dye effects or mineral washes. Or if you want to do a dip dye, these are dip dye machines. This is actually a hand dip dye machine where they actually have to put it on 2 levels, and that's how you kind of get that clean break in a dip dye process. And they also have a machine one that kind of gives a more continuous up and down motion on it. So once everything is done here in the dye process, you can see these extractors right here. And the way that these extractors work is that you take the clothes and you put them in here, and it spins around really, really fast. And the centrifugal force pulls the water out of the garment. It really helps extract as much moisture and water out before it goes into the dry process. This is an extractor right here that's running right now. These are different pigments that can be used. Reactive is one way to dye apparel, and then pigment is another one. You can kind of see like the different colors that are used in the pigment process. And everything gets kind of weighed out here. There's a whole science behind it, really. Right now they're grinding some garments right now to kind of add like a fake destruction look on the hem of the garments and on the sleeves. This is actually some of my production right now that's getting prepared for wash. And as you can see, these are in a white prepared for dye. And you can see the sewing construction here, and just kind of little things that we did, like adding like reinforced neck tape into the garment that goes through the shoulder and the neck all the way through. And these garments are actually designed to shrink down to the exact spec. So when we print out our pattern, it's going to shrink down a little bit. So what you'll see right here is what looks like to be a little bit of bubbling in the hem, but once that shrinks out, everything will be okay. There's tons of different washes you can do. I mean, there's tie-dyes, there's mineral washes, dip dyes, if you want to follow me right here. This is kind of like a dip dye with a mineral wash put on top. There's just so many different things you can do. You know, it's just kind of like one step in the chain that happens when you're making a t-shirt. You know, you got your fabric knitting, your yarn spinning, you got your cutting, your sewing. And it's kind of cool because no one really like sees this, you know, like we just kind of just assume that our clothes get done, but they don't really like think of like all the processes, all the driving around town, you know, that this has got to move and everything. And